Delaware Valley's leading news program with Gary Papa, Dave Roberts, and Jim Gardner.
Friday night, workers clean up the mess in Scranton where the president's father-in-law will be buried tomorrow. And meet the man who is replacing Benjamin Hooks at the NAACP. But the big story in Action News tonight is the federal Rodney King beating trial. The jury could get the case this weekend, and today a defense attorney pulled no punches when he called Rodney King a flat-out liar. The charge came from Michael Stone in his closing argument. Stone said King is a self-serving liar, willing to violate the civil rights of 4 policemen to escape his own due punishment. Stone represents Lawrence Powell, police officer, who clubbed King the most times during that videotape beating 2 years ago. Of course, it is the 4 officers charged with violating the civil rights of Rodney King. Closing arguments continue tomorrow, and the jury should get the case over the weekend. California Governor Pete Wilson issued a call for calm today with the verdict drawing near, but Wilson did make it clear he is prepared for anything.
Troops will be in the armories, will be deployed if necessary. It is my hope and my expectation that that will not be necessary.
Wilson asked residents to follow a spirit of justice and peace to avoid what he called the mindless violence of a year ago. The federal government says pickup trucks made by General Motors over a period of 14 years are dangerous and should be recalled. But GM is balking at that recall request. Action News reporter Dan Quaya has details.
This footage is GM's own crash tests using its pickup trucks in question. The government says test results show that trucks built between 1973 and 87 with gas tanks mounted on the outside of the frame have a risk of fire and fatal side impacts that is 2.4 times greater than that of full-size Ford pickups. It is asking GM to voluntarily recall 4.7 million such trucks, but the company says it instead wants to present more evidence showing the trucks are safe.
General Motors intends to avail itself of the opportunity to present additional analysis to NHTSA's Office of Defects Investigation, ODI, to demonstrate why no recall of these trucks is warranted.
But Marshall Bernstein of Center City, one of a number of lawyers across the country who sued GM over the saddle tanks, questions whether GM has such data.
If they had, number one, the likelihood of their having settled as many cases as they have would be much slimmer. Number two, if they had such evidence, they would have produced it in such cases as have been tried.
Bernstein represented a Northeast Pennsylvania couple who reached a major out-of-court settlement after their GM truck caught fire in an accident. And yet, what would be involved for GM to address the government's concerns? Simply changing the gas tank from one place to another? Nope.
You'd have to relocate the gas tanks inside the frame rail, and to do that, you got to modify exhaust systems, and seeing the truck was not designed that way, it'd be a very costly recall.
Just what kind of impact these latest developments will have on the resale value of these trucks would seem clear, but some salesmen say they won't get the real picture for another few days. I'm Dan Quaya, Channel 6 Action News.
And in our area tonight, one of the GM pickup trucks Dan just talked about was involved in a fatal wreck. This was the scene at Egypt and Hollow Roads in Upper Providence Township, Montgomery County. A minivan collided with a GMC pickup, one of the models with those side-mounted gas tanks. The driver of the pickup was thrown from his vehicle, which then burst into flames. The unidentified driver of the minivan had to be cut from the wreckage and was flown to Brandywine Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. The driver of the pickup is listed in fair condition. The First family attended funeral services tonight for the First Lady's father in Little Rock. A 1-hour service was held at the First United Methodist Church. Hillary Clinton, the president, and their daughter Chelsea were joined by family, friends, and some top government officials. Meanwhile, work has been going on at a furious pace at the cemetery in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where Hugh Rodham will be buried tomorrow. Rodham was raised in Scranton and bought a plot at the cemetery in 1952. The owner of the cemetery is in jail for stealing more than $200,000 in perpetual care funds. His name is John Rogan, and he offered to clean up the cemetery if he could get out of jail on work release and meet the president. Scranton Mayor Jim Connors said thanks, but no thanks. The White House is making no excuses tonight for today's bombing attack on Iraqi anti-aircraft installations. It happened over the no-fly zone, that after 4 U.S. warplanes were fired at by anti-aircraft fire. The planes were not hit and returned safely to their base in Turkey. Iraqi television showed these pictures today. Baghdad said the pictures showed remnants of the cluster bombs dropped by 3 F-16s. And Iraqi television also showed pictures of a man officials said is a soldier injured in a bombing today. Delaware Senator Joseph Biden has finished a fact-finding mission in Bosnia. He met today with Bosnian President Alija Izetbegovic. Biden says the Serbs must allow UN peacekeepers into the besieged city of Srebrenica or face the consequences. Biden was asked if the U.S. could do more to help save Bosnia from Serbian aggression.
It can do more. It can only do more, though, in conjunction with, under the auspices of the United Nations. I, for one, think we should lift the arms embargo, but obviously the United States cannot unilaterally do that at this point.
Biden will report directly to President Clinton on his findings today in Sarajevo. The NAACP has a new executive director tonight. He is the Reverend Benjamin Chavis, who is currently director of the Commission for Racial Justice, United Church of Christ. Chavis is replacing Benjamin Hooks, who is retiring after 16 years. In Atlanta today, Chavis said his selection as executive director of the NAACP symbolizes the beginning of renewal and revitalization of the oldest civil rights organization in the country. This is Good Friday, the day Christians over the world mark the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. In Rome tonight, Pope John Paul II carried a cross around the Colosseum as part of a candlelight mass. Earlier today, the pontiff continued a tradition he began by hearing the confessions of a dozen Catholics representing 7 countries. In the Holy Land, pilgrims from all over the world followed the path of Christ's final steps in Jerusalem's Old City. Security was tight, and many Palestinian Christians who live in Israeli-occupied territories missed the ritual. That after the government ordered the West Bank and Gaza sealed off because of Arab-Israeli violence. Good Friday observances were also held at churches across the Delaware Valley, like here at the Greater White Rock Baptist Church in West Philadelphia. The solemn services today will lead to the joyous celebration of Easter Sunday, marking the resurrection of Christ. In Philadelphia today, it was the annual anti-abortion protest. Demonstrators call this their Good Friday mission, to single out abortion clinics in Center City to save the lives of unborn children. The activists protested 3 abortion facilities. The demonstrations were peaceful, but they made a mess out of Center City traffic for much of the morning. An accused rapist is back in custody tonight after he broke out of an Ocean County jail. 27-year-old John Bailey was captured in Toms River 10 hours after escaping from the prison. Bailey is charged with sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl and a 30-year-old woman, both in Stafford Township, Ocean County. Police caught up with Bailey after tracing him to a payphone at a 7-Eleven. Police showed us the homemade tools Bailey used to cut his way through the window and window bars of his cell. One was a miniature saw made from a pen clip and a toothbrush handle. John Bailey back behind bars tonight. Officials are investigating the crash of a small plane today in Chester County. The Cessna 150 crashed just after taking off from the Shannon Airport in West Bradford Township. The plane was on a training flight with an instructor and student, Glenn Frame of Glenmore. Luckily, both Frame and the teacher walked away with only minor injuries. All over the Delaware Valley, this time of year poses a real dilemma. It's a deer dilemma, and communities just don't know what to do about it. Case in point, Lower Moreland Township. Here is Action News reporter Karen Friedman.
On any given night, you can spot dozens of deer roaming by the old railroad plant at Red Lion and Pine Roads in Lower Moreland. There are so many deer that in Abington Township alone, nearly 100 are killed by cars each year. Since 1976, the deer population in Montgomery County has increased tenfold. They are looking for food, and they stay if people feed them.
How come you're feeding them? Just to have fun, I guess.
But officials can no longer control the problem. Health and wildlife experts say it's too expensive to relocate the animals, and besides, nobody wants them. Abington Police Chief Bill Kelly.
The only answers they can come up with are to reduce the size of the herd, and that's very difficult because many people are not for killing the deer.
According to resident John DiDonato, some people try to kill them anyway.
They try to climb in the fence early in the morning or late at night and, try to shoot the deer. And they wind up just injuring them, and they wind up going out into the road and getting hit by cars.
But it is a bigger problem than just traffic or even the sheer nuisance of it all. In the past 3 years, officials say the incidence of Lyme disease have increased dramatically, and neighbors here tell me they're scared.
We've had up to 10 back there jumping across the lawns. And I'm a little worried about the baby because of Lyme disease, in the summer.
Officials report 300 to 400 cases of Lyme disease in Montgomery County each year. Their advice, look but don't touch, and most certainly, don't feed the deer. I'm Karen Friedman, Channel 6 Action News, Lower Moreland.
Still to come on Action News tonight, a smoke bomb goes off at the Armed Compound in Waco, Texas. And a sold-out home crowd welcomes the Phillies back to the vet.
Cloud cover is here along with some drizzle, but the heavy rain is still on the way.
An experimental device is keeping a heart patient alive tonight. Those stories and more when Action News continues. The war of nerves between government agents and members of the Branch Davidian cult continues tonight in Waco, Texas. Earlier today, a cult member left the compound and set off a smoke bomb. The reason why isn't clear yet. And an aide to cult leader David Koresh claims that federal agents killed 6 members of the cult in the February 28th gun battle that started it all. Koresh also says he has no plans now to end the 41-day standoff, despite reports that cult members might be ready to surrender after the Passover and Easter holidays. An earthquake rattled parts of southern Texas this morning. The quake measured 4.2 on the Richter scale and was centered about 55 miles southeast of San Antonio. There were no reports of any injuries, but at least one house was knocked off its foundation, and a natural gas processing plant had to be shut down. That after the quake caused 3 pipeline leaks. An island community in Louisiana is devastated tonight, that following a deadly tornado. The tornado cut through one school yesterday afternoon as classes were being dismissed for the Easter break, and 17-year-old prom queen Tracy Alleman was killed. So were 2 construction workers working in a nearby house. The cleanup is now underway, but the small community on the Gulf of Mexico is stunned over the 3 deaths. The water crisis continues in Milwaukee, where the city's drinking supply is making people sick. Health officials closed one treatment plant as they traced the source of the contamination. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of people have become ill with severe diarrhea and nausea. And a buying frenzy of bottled water is underway. The National Guard is handing out bottled water as well. One theory is that an organism from a dairy farm or a slaughterhouse got into the water supply. A heart patient from Elizabeth, New Jersey, is being kept alive tonight with the help of a surgically implanted pump. 42-year-old Miriam Salazar became the first person in the state to receive the device, which is considered experimental. It was implanted in her ailing heart to keep beating until she can have a total heart transplant. A 12-year-old girl from New Hampshire says her mother has always told her to be honest, and that's why she returned several $1,000s in found money. The girl found a clear plastic sandwich bag in a parking lot last week. The bag was stuffed with $7,000 in cash. She took it to her grandmother, and they turned it in. The owner later claimed the bag of cash and left a $100 bill for the little girl. Phillies lost today, but it almost seemed as if no one really cared because everyone was having so much fun.
It was fun before the game. They started out on a high note with all the right notes outside Veterans Stadium for the home opener.
She and I haven't missed opening day since the stadium's here. We've been at every game since the stadium opened up.
And the ball delivered by the parachuting Philly fanatic. But it didn't stay in the park very long. Bottom of the first inning, Darren Dalton, 3-run home run. It is! Cubs really hit the long ball. Derek Mayi, he's from Newark, Delaware. He had a couple of home runs. Harry Carey, you got this one. 11-7, the Cubs win. 8 homers in the Homer Open. Afterwards, Dalton, who had a couple, talked about today's loss.
Any more of a thrill with the home opener hitting a couple home runs?
If we'd have won, yeah, I'd be real happy, but we didn't win, so it's just another day at the office.
Another day at the office. Phillies did sell out at the office, over 60,000. In Denver, they had 80,000 for their opener. First time ever. The first batter in the franchise history is Eric Young at home. And what does he do? It could be. It's a mile-high moment. Colorado over Montreal, 11-4. On the scoreboard, Pittsburgh spoiled. The Bonds returned to Three Rivers. Houston won in the 10th inning. San Diego 2 in the 9th to win 2-1. Braves behind Pete Smith blanked the Dodgers. To the American, if you don't know Bo, this is a story of desire. Bo Jackson, with an artificial hip, had his first at-bat today.
Tim Raines started the ball game. He left with Andrew Castro came out, drove a run with a single, and here comes Bo. And fly ball, right field.
What kind of thoughts were you going through your mind as you routed the bases?
Only one thought, and that was my mother. Before she passed, I promised her that this day would come.
But on the scoreboard, the White Sox did lose the game 11-6. And the Blue Jays won it 13-10. Sixers hosting the Hornets of Charlotte, and the Hornet with the most sting tonight, obviously, is Alonzo Mourning. He scores and draws the foul. He'll do it again and again and again. And only at 33 points, Sixers lose it 122-113, and he drew the foul. On the scoreboard, Detroit defeated Boston. Orlando over Minnesota. Cleveland wins. Chicago over Atlanta, 88-87. How about the story tonight? We got the Flyers off tonight. They're going to be at Toronto tomorrow. Tonight, Pittsburgh is going for the record. Mario is on fire. 5 goals in all. Pittsburgh won it 10-4.
And the Penguins lead 10-3.
Yeah, their 16th win in a row, setting an NHL record.
The Penguins lead 10-3.
Unbelievable. Mario, of course, coming back from Hodgkin's treatment. 5 goals tonight. Masters, second round had to be suspended because of HR. Heavy rains.
I'll say this once and only once. Only time all season. Gary Papa's in a fantasy baseball league.
Yes.
He's not smiling tonight.
Why is that?
6 of his top players already on the DL. You might as well quit. You're out of it, guy. Forget it.
Out of here.
Out of here.
Rubbing it in.
All right. The 20th concert season of the Philadelphia Singers came to an end tonight with a special performance marking Good Friday. It is a requiem written by Vincent Paraschetti and performed at the Academy of Music. It is based on a 13th century Franciscan text that talks about the crucifixion of Christ and about his grieving mother. Oh, Dave.
Oh, no.
You said the rain wouldn't be here until 12 midnight.
I know. What time do you have?
About 26 minutes before that.
It got here a little early, didn't it? Started out with some drizzle in some sections. I don't know what it's like where you are, but on City Line Avenue, it is pouring. It is teeming. So the soaking stuff is here a little bit early, and there's more on the way. Here's the system, Storm Center. Now in Kentucky and Tennessee, heavy thunderstorms coming out of the Carolinas. That's where the greatest concentration seems to be. Rainfall on top of that and a good amount of it moving on into the Delaware Valley. Action radar will show you exactly what we're talking about. Our concern earlier this evening was those heavy hitters down there now in the Carolinas that came out of Georgia, Florida, Georgia, now into the Carolinas. And by about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, we expected this steady soaking rain. Well, it's here right now. Looks as if it's going to let up just a little bit before it starts all over again tomorrow. So tomorrow is a washout. That system just quickly moves away. Now, if it does, it came in a little early, and if it goes out a little sooner, that'll make it even a little nicer for Easter Sunday. That's what we're hoping for. 58 degrees today in Chicago, 68 here in Kansas City. That system's got to move before we see any type of clearing whatsoever. But we still have hope. Yes, we do. We have hope for Easter, that we're going to get some sunshine and the skies will clear a little bit. It's 52 in the Poconos, 51 in Allentown, a pair of 5s in Reading, 52 in Wilmington, 48 in Dover. If you're down at the shore, 46 to 47. Our low was 43. What a pleasant high today of 69 degrees. 3:27 this afternoon. Let's take a look at the 11 o'clock numbers. There are the daffodils blowing in the wind again. The present temperature reading is 52. Relative humidity 92%. The barometer is 2988. It's falling. EC winds out of the east-southeast at 9 miles an hour. The ocean water temperature is 44. There's the number, 50 degrees in the northeast, 52 outside the station, 53 for Center City. The official number, 52 at the airport, and Camden, 53. The exclusive AccuWeather 5-day forecast. Here it is now, breezy and cloudy. Rain coming after midnight is already here, 50 degrees. Rainy and windy for tomorrow, a high of 58 degrees. We could possibly get an inch of rain out of this system. It is a soaker. On Sunday, clouds with some sun, maybe still a little shower activity, hanging out a high of 60 degrees, mostly dry on Easter. Planning an Easter egg hunt, that's good news. If you're not, it's still good news. Cloudy with 58 degrees, windy and cool, 58, 60 degrees, partly sunny. On Wednesday, there's a look at the 5 days. So tomorrow is a washout. Sunday, we still have hopes.
All right, David, thank you. Doctors and school officials in Egypt have a mystery on their hands tonight, namely, what is causing schoolgirls to faint sometimes by the hundreds? Officials say it's like a domino effect. One girl faints, and several of her classmates follow suit. Doctors have conducted tests and can find nothing wrong with the girls. They're blaming the fainting spells on mass hysteria. At one school, the false rumor that one girl had died was enough to make 150 others pass out. Still to come on Action News tonight, a Delaware Valley youngster spins the wheel of fortune, and we have a report from Don Pollock's world when we continue in just a moment. When Garth Brooks tickets go on sale in the morning in York, Pennsylvania, more than 1,000 fans will be in line waiting. Let's see if we can get through this. Ticket seekers started lining up and camping out at the York Fairgrounds several days ago. They've been playing a lot of Garth Brooks music while they wait. Tickets to the show by the country singing superstar won't go on sale until the morning. And all right, the concert doesn't even happen until September. Okay, a Pennsauken, New Jersey teenager rolled into some good fortune by spinning the wheel of fortune Friday night, right? Tonight he got the chance to watch himself on the tape program on Channel 6.
R.
Yes, there are 2 R's.
That is Eric Ogden, and during 2 nights on the Wheel of Fortune's teen tournament, Eric won $37,000. He says he'll go on a small spending spree, and the rest goes to college. I don't really know what's going on. According to the old saying, most of us think the grass is always greener on the other side, but in Don Pollock's world, one man doesn't have to worry about that.
Reed Funk sure is proud of his lawn. Well, you can't blame him, really. It's the greenest and most lush one you're likely to find in all of New Jersey. But then at nearly 200 acres, it's more than just a lawn. It's his job. Because Dr. Reed Funk, a professor of turf science at Rutgers University, is truly a man outstanding in his field, a world-renowned expert in the study and development of grass, hybrid varieties that not only provide hope for lawn losers whose yards look more like this, but have found their way to the Rose Bowl, the Masters Golf Course, the infield at Shea Stadium.
Obviously, we're trying to produce the best grass for each particular situation, anywhere from a putting green, where you want a good creeping bent grass, to a roadside, where tall fescue will serve a job of soil conservation. In between, of course, you've got the home lawns, the school grounds, the play fields, and so forth.
Varieties that he continues to try and improve by crossbreeding and growing them at the Rutgers Test Fields in Adelphia, New Jersey. Because of the very nature of a lawn, we hardly ever think of it as being composed of individual plants, and yet that is exactly the way they're grown here at the facility's test nurseries, where each of these plants were grown from a single grass seed and thus can be evaluated in terms of color and the size.
We have the Kentucky bluegrasses, which are still considered sort of the Cadillac of lawn-type turf grasses. We have the fine fescues, a number of different species and varieties that are adapted for shady soils.
He's even developed strains that grow with a microscopic fungus that does no harm to the grass, but doesn't taste very good to bugs, making the grass more resistant to insect pests. And he's able to do all of this without having to deal with the biggest downside of lawns.
I do very little mowing nowadays. We do have students, and they do most of the work.
Allowing Reed Funk to continue his pursuit of new and improved grasses that make for good wear, good looks, and, lest we forget, good eating. This is Don Pollock, Channel 6 Action News.
Good night. Have a great weekend.
From Channel 6, this has been Action News, the most watched news program in the Delaware Valley. When you see news happening, call the Action News tip line by dialing News 6. In New Jersey, dial 966-6666 or call our regional news bureaus.